this. And join us now is Republican Congressman Mike Turner of Ohio. He sits on the Oversight and Government Reform Committee. Congressman Turner, thank you so much for coming on. First, I just want to get your reaction to what we just heard from Susan there. She says that lives are being lost because of this move and that Russia and China are going to now fill the vacuum left behind. What do you say?
Well, certainly this is disruptive, but you have to understand, we, one, have to get control overall of our budget and of our spending. This is essential. We cannot continue to operate in the manner we are. We are trillions and trillions of dollars in debt because of really irresponsible ways in which we have managed and operated the federal government. Secondly, we really have to get the government to be more responsive to the senior leadership, the senior policy leadership. And what we certainly found in the last Trump administration is that it took years before even portions of the government were responsive to senior leadership. In this instance, what we're trying to do, and what I think the leadership of the Trump administration is trying to do, is trying to find ways in which, certainly in the area of foreign policy, as you're hearing from Secretary of State Marco Rubio, how are we going to make certain that this responds to the Secretary of State? Now, in doing so, it's going to be disruptive. I don't believe lives are being lost, but I do believe, and certainly Americans have an understanding that a lot of their aid, as it's being distributed, sometimes doesn't really get distributed in a manner where it's clear that this is America that is distributing it. Sometimes we don't win against China and Russia and other countries in that message of where America is present and where America is making a difference. Mm-hmm. We need to make certain that it is America that is there, and that it is that we are establishing those relationships, that it is our goals and objectives that are being achieved. And sometimes it has to be disruptive as we review those processes to make certain that they're being responsive.
And you're saying, it is disruptive. That is true. But there's a real question here. Is this the right way to go about this? A lot of Americans want there to be, a weeding out of fraud, abuse, and waste in the government, right? But is this the right way? You have the White House now targeting up to 10% of the federal workforce. That would be up to 200,000 people let go. Now you have the CIA notice offering buyouts to all of its workers.
And these are different issues. I mean, the issues of foreign aid and TB vaccines, and the issue of personnel workforce, in Washington, all of these are different issues, but they are issues all that need to be addressed, because some of them are spending, some of them are policy, some of the manner of how we do business. All of these things are issues that we need to address, and we need to do it. You can't just wait and have them all get in line. We need to do them all at once.
Okay, so there are different issues, but guess who is at the helm of doing a lot of this, right? That would be Elon Musk. He is a tech billionaire, richest man in the world, wielding a ton of influence on this administration. Trump confirmed that Musk has access to the Treasury Department's financial payment system, which sends out money on behalf of the entire federal government. He has a view only, the White House says. He's been leading the charge, dismantling parts of the federal government. Are you comfortable with Musk's role as an unelected person who has billions of dollars before the federal government in the Trump administration, and how he's doing this?
Well, I think, we certainly are always concerned when there's a bull in the china shop, and that's certainly something that we're seeing here. And there are limits, and there certainly are even court cases currently ongoing, and Congress, even as you saw in the USAID issue, the Secretary of State is involved, Congress is being notified. Congress have proposals that are coming before Congress. It is not as if this is being done completely in a vacuum. There are reviews that are ongoing. Certainly, though, this has to be with limits. I do think that some of the news reports are exaggerations of what's occurring, and we certainly will find out. Because
why do you think that?
Because there are news reports that are based upon anecdotal stories of what is occurring or what Elon Musk is doing or has access to, as opposed to actually what is happening. But the White House
the Treasury Department, the White House has confirmed, for example, at the Treasury payment system, they say, yeah, he has access, but it's view only. I mean, that's
exactly.
not just like an anonymous sources.
Okay, but that comma, view only, that you just said happens to be the most incredible, important aspect, because when you report that he has access to it, it makes it sound like he has levers and dials and can pull and push, versus if someone's going to be making a recommendation, hold on a second, if somebody's going to be making a recommendation as to something that needs to be reformed, as to where there is fraud, having access, view only, is to be able to understand what is occurring. As opposed to some reports make it sound like he's sitting there, as the Wizard of Oz with controls and dials with the Treasury system, which is completely different.
And the question I made clear, it was view only, but as you well know, there are concerns among critics of this that why is this unelected person having access to all of this information about Americans' payments that they're receiving? And there's federal law, as you well know, that prohibits conflict of interest, prohibits employees from participating in matters that could affect their financial interests, government employees. In his dual role as special government employee, where is the accountability here?
One thing that we know, our systems are out of control. Trillions and trillions of dollars in debt. There's fraud throughout the system, and we're trying to get a handle on this. And to the extent that view only, that portions of the system needs to be reviewed so that we can understand what reforms need to be put in place, we need to do this, and we need to do it quickly, because we're bleeding. I mean, as a federal system, the manner in which we have money going out the door, where we need to find out how can we control these systems, get control over the federal budget, so that we can.
But hold on. Let me just follow up, because you're not answering the question about accountability. No one is arguing, I think, that there should be reform in the federal government. The issue here is how it is being done and who is doing it. An unelected official, a person, I should say, who's a special government employee with conflict of interest before the federal government, billions of dollars, who's at the helm here. As a member of the Oversight Committee, what are you going to do to make sure he's held accountable and to make sure that he's not abusing his power here? I
believe that there are checks and balances in the system. I do not believe that it's being reported accurately as to where those checks and balances are. And I believe that many times that little comma of like view only gives people the impressions that people are running amok in government, and they're not. They're reviewing systems that we need to understand so that we can understand what's going on and put reforms in place.
But would you like to hear from Elon Musk? There's a hearing right now on all of this, on the government reform and the actions. Elon Musk is not testifying. Do you think he should go and testify in front of the Oversight Committee and really lay out to you? Because you're saying, oh, you don't believe a lot of these reports are overblown. Well, don't you want to hear from him directly about what exactly is happening?
And I'm sure, because he's not shy about doing that, I'm sure there'll be time for that. I'm sure he will do that.
But let me just ask you, because, I know you said that there are reviews happening in Congress, but there are a lot of lawsuits happening right now.
And by the way, the Treasury Department has tons of lawyers. So again, I believe there are checks and balances in place. It's not as if the bank vault door is open and Elon Musk is sitting in there as the Wizard of Oz. I truly believe there are checks and balances.
I understand, but I think there's still this big question of accountability, right? I think that Americans are looking at this and wondering, what is going on here? We didn't put this guy in charge, right? And it has a massive amount of power as the richest man in the world, with all of this conflict of interest in front of the federal government. And we don't really have insight and a clear view of what is going on. And when you take a step back, I know you say that Congress is reviewing, but there are a lot of lawsuits because there's a lot of lawyers who are out there watching this saying laws are being broken and there is a disregard for this. Agencies like USAID, money appropriated by Congress just being, wiped away against the law. And as you well know, the framers created this system of government to have checks and balances. Article 1 of the Constitution makes the legislative branch a co-equal branch of government to the executive branch. Is the legislative branch ceding power here to the executive branch right now?
Well, you said a lot there, none of which yet has been determined.
What hasn't been determined of what I said?
Well, you said against the law. You actually are.
No, I said lawyers. I said lawyers have.
I've argued that.
That there are laws that Congress made. And at least 4 lawsuits have been filed alleging that laws have been broken.
Regardless of where you are on all these issues, everyone understands that, one, financially, we cannot keep going in the direction that we are. 2, that this system is massive and enormous and is out of control. 3, we have to move quickly to make certain that we do the triage, the assessment, to be able to find ways to be able to get this system under control so that we can protect the American public and get this back on track for both our economy, to stop these deficits, and to protect our country. This is going to be messy and sloppy and not pretty, but it's not going to be illegal, and it's not going to be it's going to be, in the end, the process that everyone wants, and that is, let's get this country back on track where we're living within our means, and that we have a system that that financially protects our economy.
But you said move quickly, and I know we have to go, but can Congress move quickly enough to do the checks and balances that you were given the power to do, and hold the certain people accountable? Can you move quickly? Because this is happening very fast. Can you do your job, your checks and balances job, as quickly as it is moving?
Absolutely, but we need the media to help us and make certain that you use those commas and explain actually what's happening.
We're sticking to the facts here on this show, and I'm very clear on the context.
If you don't explain what's happening, people believe that people are running amok in ways that they're not.
I understand your point, and your point is well taken. I've made very clear that I'm putting the important context and being factual, but even with the commas, people have a lot of questions, and I appreciate you coming on to try to answer some of those questions.
Pamela, thank you.
Thank you very much, Congressman. We appreciate it.